Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a historical narrative that honestly feels incredibly relevant to us right now. We're talking about the sheer, undeniable power of a single voice standing up against a deeply corrupt system. This isn't just some dusty story from the past, you guys. It's an absolute masterclass in courage.
One voice spoke up, and a prophet was pulled out of a grave of mud and silence. Just let that sink in for a second. We are stepping back into a time when speaking the truth was, well, literally dangerous. It was an era where staying silent felt a whole lot safer than being honest, and just looking the other way became a basic survival tactic.
Section 1. The Cost of Truth.
Okay, let's set the scene here. The context is absolutely desperate. Jerusalem is under a terrifying siege by the Babylonians. Fear is literally everywhere. And the kingdom? It's collapsing from the inside out. Now, right in the middle of all this sheer panic, the prophet Jeremiah steps up. He speaks the hard truth, warning everybody that the city is going to fall unless they repent. But the corrupt leaders in power, they do not want to hear it. Instead of listening, they decide to just silence him entirely. Because back then, speaking the truth made you an immediate enemy.
And the punishment they chose was unspeakably cruel. They lowered Jeremiah into a muddy cistern, basically this deep underground water storage pit. There's no food, there's no light, absolutely no hope. He just sank into this thick, suffocating mud at the very bottom. You have to understand, this wasn't just some standard prison cell to hold him for a trial. No, this was a death sentence. He was condemned to a slow, silent death without any defense whatsoever.
Section 2. The Danger of Silence.
You know, fear really has a way of convincing good people that silence is somehow wisdom. And this is the classic bystander effect playing out right in the palace. Most of the people up there, they knew exactly what was happening to Jeremiah. And they did what so many do in unjust systems. They stayed completely quiet. Speaking up could have cost them their comfortable positions, their status, or maybe even their lives. So they traded their voices for safety.
Section 3. The Outsider Speaks Up.
Now, what's incredibly fascinating here is the stark contrast in who actually takes action. On one hand, you've got the complicit majority, the royal court. These people are powerful, they are citizens of Israel by birth, and yet they are completely silent. On the other hand, you have Ebed-Melech. This guy has absolutely no political power. He's a foreign servant, a total outsider with absolutely nothing to gain, and yet he's the one who chose to speak up.
So what does Ebed-Melech actually do? Well, he goes straight to the top. First, he addresses King Zedekiah directly. I mean, just imagine that for a second. A foreign servant interrupting the king right in the middle of a crumbling kingdom. Second, he didn't whisper, but he also didn't attack with this massive rage. He just spoke steady, grounded truth. And third, he framed the urgent reality of the situation crystal clear. Jeremiah was down in that cistern and he was going to starve to death. It's such a brilliant reminder that true courage isn't always loud, explosive anger. Often, it's just steady, urgent honesty right in the face of power.
Section 4. Rescue from the pit.
And this brilliantly illustrates the immediate impact of real courage. 30. King Zedekiah didn't just casually agree to look into it. He immediately ordered 30 men to go with Ebed-Melech to pull Jeremiah out before he died. Think about how wild that is. A single, brave conversation managed to temporarily mobilize a deeply corrupt system to actually pull off a rescue.
But Ebed-Melech didn't just stop at speaking brave words, right? He followed through with tangible action. He gathered up old rags and worn-out clothes, and he lowered them down into the cistern, telling Jeremiah to put them under his arms so the ropes wouldn't cut into him and cause severe rope burns. And then together, they carefully lifted the prophet completely out of the pit. He took his bold words and translated them into a deeply physical, life-saving rescue operation.
Section 5. The power of one voice. Now, I want to ask you directly, so what does this story mean for us today? Obviously, we aren't living in ancient Jerusalem, and we probably aren't pulling prophets out of muddy cisterns. But listen, the dynamics of power, fear, and silence, those are just as real in our modern lives right now as they were way back then.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is the concept of moral courage. It is not about your position, it is about your decision. Ebed-Melech had absolutely no authority on paper. He didn't need a fancy title to do the right thing. Moral courage is simply the refusal to let evil become normal. It's looking at injustice and refusing to accept it as just the way things are.
And we really have to confront this pretty uncomfortable truth from our source material. Silence becomes a kind of participation. This is honestly the quiet tragedy of injustice. Evil systems, they don't just thrive because of a few bad actors at the top. They thrive because good, everyday people look the other way and start to believe their voices simply don't matter.
Furthermore, fear becomes a form of agreement. Ebed-Melech's actions are a massive reminder that true courage almost always begins with discomfort. I mean, he risked his physical safety, his place in the palace, and he definitely risked being severely punished. But courage isn't the absence of fear, is it? It's feeling that fear, knowing exactly what the risks are, and choosing to act anyway.
There's also a powerful, deeper spiritual truth embedded in this source material, and it's that God works through totally unexpected people. Ebed-Melech wasn't a prophet. He wasn't some famous miracle worker. He just stood up when literally no one else would. And crucially, the text notes that later on in history, when Jerusalem actually does fall, God sends Ebed-Melech a personal promise of protection. His bravery in that totally corrupt system wasn't forgotten. It was never invisible to God.
The bottom line is this: you do not need to be powerful to make a difference. You only need to be willing. Ebed-Melech didn't go out and overthrow the entire corrupt government. He didn't magically change the whole kingdom, but he saved one life. And by saving that one life, he completely shattered the myth that you need status or wealth to create real, meaningful change. So I want to leave you with this provocative final question to reflect on. Will you be the one brave voice? Because history so often turns on the courage of just one single person who refuses to stay silent. One brave voice really can save a life, even in the most corrupt systems imaginable. If you found this explainer as inspiring as I did, definitely be sure to subscribe so we can keep uncovering these powerful, forgotten lessons hidden in history together. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.